This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
All right, well, this is a special edition of Red Pill Nation. I'm your host, Nathan Davis, along with Johnny Henderson, the founder and director of Red Pill Nation. How you doing tonight, Johnny?
Oh, I am doing beautifully.
That's good.
On this, yes, it's Sabbath evening for me, and I'm just having a nice, peaceful evening so far, and thought that since I was having such a good night, I would be kind enough to do a show with Nathan, because I know it's near and dear to his heart right now.
Oh, yes, especially what's going on. Right after the show on Wednesday, I got a message from my cousin, and he sent me an article basically stating that Obama had ordered a nuclear device exploded in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, this was in EU Times, and basically they said that this is the reason that these two heads of the nuclear arsenal were fired, because he was enraged that they would not follow his orders. Now, Alex Jones reported on September 3rd that some nuclear devices had gone missing from Texas, and they were taken out without any paperwork and taken to the East Coast. Lindsey Graham, that same day later on, said that if we did not attack Syria, that Charleston Harbor would be blown up by a nuclear device. And then this report comes out. Now, the other crazy thing
Now, that was in the middle of September, wasn't it?
Right, that was in the middle of September. Well, no, it was September 3rd that report came out from Alex Jones. Then,
okay, the early September.
Right. Then this report came out that Russian intelligence had been alerted by these heads of the nuclear department that Obama was ordering them to blow up Charleston. And what they did was they detonated the device 600 and some odd miles away from Charleston. I know this sounds crazy, but the day that they were supposed to do it, which was 10/7, October 7th, they had a 4.5 earthquake in Charleston. Now, seismologists can tell from the seismic activity whether it was seismic or plate tectonics that caused the earthquake, or if it was a bomb detonation. From the seismic graphing, they determined that it was not plate tectonics that caused this detonation, or caused this earthquake, but a detonation of a device that caused it. Because when you have an earthquake, it's a gradual incline, and it gets worse and worse. With an explosion, it's a sudden event that quickly tapers off, and that's what they had. So this is very odd. I'm not saying that everything is true. I don't know, but this is very interesting. You have these, heads of the nuclear department. Let me pull up that article. Got so much open.
Now, even if this were true, why would you ever believe that it's far-fetched? Because it's not the first time that the American government has orchestrated a false flag event.
Oh, I know.
I mean, in the 60s, and you can go now and look at these unclassified documents, the Northwood documents, and see for yourself that there was plans in the 60s to hijack an airplane and crash it into buildings, shoot down airliners and blame it on Cuba as an excuse, a pretext to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at all the evidence for Oklahoma City, supposedly a fertilizer bomb that done this. Now, a fertilizer bomb, from what I understand, doesn't blow up, it blows out. It should have never took off the whole front of that building the way that it did.
Right.
There's a lot of things that don't add up. And even there, the seismologist in the region detected 2 explosions as opposed to 1.
Well, they talked about it in the local news. Now, this never made national news with the Oklahoma City, was that they were talking about a second bomb and looking for other people.
Well, yes, I've got copies of the news reports where they said that a second bomb had been deactivated and they were working on a third one. Before the explosion even took place, people reported seeing the bomb squad there in the bushes lurking around. Every member of the ATF that worked in the building got a phone call and was told not to come to work that day, except for, I believe it was 2 agents that had been personal bodyguards of then President Bill Clinton. They were the only ones lost in the explosion.
And 9/11, I mean, if you look at that, I mean, if you even talk about it, if you even mention that during this event, the air traffic controllers, their teleprompters had not only live plane activity, but staged plane activity because they were running exercises that day to test responsiveness for the same event that was happening. Planes running into buildings, including the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and other targets. And if you listen to the air traffic chatter, they were saying, we have planes heading towards the World Trade Center. Should we scramble the jets? And they're like, is this live or exercise? There was confusion that day because of that. Then there's thermite that's found in the dust of the World Trade Center. And you have pictures of the beams, the base beams that are cut at an angle. And you see where
not
the
only
molten
that,
steel...
but if you look at the actual footage, it looks as though there may have actually been scalar waves used to bring it down as well.
That's possible. They also
are you familiar with what scalar waves are?
I've heard of it. Remind me.
Look it up. It's so technical and above my head that the most simple way to refer to it would be a death ray.
Okay,
but if you actually look up the technology, scalar waves, man, these things are a nightmare. The Russians already have the capabilities. I'm sure we do, but these things have the ability to literally destroy the Earth.
Yeah, because I think Jesse Ventura on his show, Conspiracy Theory,
he talked to Ken Hutchinson about scalar waves.
Yeah, I
or
remember
death
that.
rays.
But the top level people that were let go by Obama, I have it up here. Let's see. Were Vice Admiral of the U.S. Navy Tim Gardina, and U.S. Air Force Major General Michael Carey, and 2 others.
Now, have you actually looked it up to make sure these are real people and not just something that from a false news report?
Well, these are people that were released because that came up in the mainstream media. So, but let me check here. I will actually do something that most people don't know how to do, which is called a Google
actually
search.
Fact check. Everything we say, we want to make sure that we fact check it.
Yes, these are real people, and they were released. That was just simply doing a something called a Google search. It's in ABC News that they were released on Friday, 6 days ago.
Released or relieved?
Let's see, fired. Actually, it says fired. So, that right there is pretty damning. And there were two others that were released as well. Major General Charles M. Garganas and Major General Greg A. Sturdivant. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But these four people were released, and in this article it says that, and this is up on Red Pill Nation Facebook group, it says that they were released after Obama was enraged because they wouldn't follow his orders to bomb Charleston.
Well, then shouldn't these men be kind of held as heroes because they actually obeyed the oath that they took to defend this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic? And if you have a branch of government that's demanding that you bomb the citizens of this great nation, doesn't that make them an enemy that is domestic?
Yeah, but look at Snowden. Look at Manning. These people have been held as terrorists by our government. Feinstein, Franken Feinstein, I can't stand that woman, condemned them. So it just shows that the people that are patriotic, that sit there and tell you what's going on, that, hey, look, this is the stuff that's going on. Of course, most of the people don't, listen or even care. They're more worried about...
I have issues with Manning, though, right?
I know, but the fact of the matter is that was information that was being kept from the American people.
It's true. The information, I'm all for him releasing it, but his reasons for releasing it's why I have issues with him.
Right, but for me...
he had...
But for me, that doesn't matter as much. He's being condemned for releasing the information, not for his reasoning. That has nothing to do with it. He was held. He was mistreated because of what he brought forward. Now, his reasoning doesn't matter because he was punished for being a terrorist because he released something that they didn't want to get out.
Well, no, that's true. But it would have carried more weight, and he would have seemed so much more honorable and credible had he came from a place of pure motivation instead of him doing it out of anger.
Well, possibly,
now,
but...
Snowden, I think this guy was top shelf.
Okay. But
see, we don't always agree on everything.
No, we don't.
I don't mind telling Nathan when he's wrong.
Well, I'm not wrong, because the fact of the matter is that he was in prison because of bringing out this information. That's not something that he should have been condemned for. He should not have been, held in a cell.
Actually, the people keeping the information from us are the ones that should be in prison.
Oh, yeah. I agree totally. I even think that the Bush administration should be in jail. I mean, they were the ones that, did all kinds of stuff.
Every administration in my lifetime should be in jail.
Oh, I know. The thing of it is like 9/11, getting back to that, the 9/11 Commission was headed up by a former White House insider, and he was the one that made the final call in what was put into the commission report. And Bush and Cheney were allowed to go in there together, not separate, and did not take an oath, didn't allow any cameras in there or audio recording equipment. There was no documentation of what they said. Now, that right there is criminal to me.
Well, it is. There's no way that it can be justified. And so many people, they love Bush just because he claimed to be a Christian, but the man was no more Christian than Muhammad.
Who? Obama?
George Bush.
Oh, George Bush. True, even though he said he was, doing this all in the name of Jesus. Or he was on the side of God, whatever he said. I mean, he thought he was self-righteous, but anyway. And I did have somebody say that they thought Manning was careless and Snowden was very strategic, and that's true. But again, what I have a problem with is the fact that they were, they're going after these men. Well, one is whatever he is now, but they went after him because of what they released. They didn't hold them for any other reason, and the thing of it is that this administration, he came in saying that he was going to be transparent, and he has been anything but. And of course, who would think? Oh, there's a lot of people that think that. They're usually uneducated, but he came in here saying that he was going to be transparent, not like the other administration, and then all of a sudden he's not. He hid a lot of stuff, and then when people bring it out, then he wants to punish them. I mean, that right there...
He's been the most radical president in this nation's history.
Yeah, the last two especially. I mean, I think Bush as well. Both of them have been very radical and tyrannical in their processes. I don't know.
They have been. For years I claimed to be a Republican, and, even as I was looking at these different things, I was like, well, they're the lesser of two evil, but I'm tired of choosing evil, even if it's the Diet Coke of evil.
Thank you. See, for me, I was independent for years. I never voted for the two-party system. I didn't believe in it. And now I identify myself as libertarian because I really see, them as being, understanding that you're an individual and that there's nobody above you, that nobody can hold authority over you and order you to do whatever. I mean, there's certain moral values of law. Of course, common sense stuff. Don't kill people. Don't steal.
And I would be considered a constitutionalist.
Well, it's in the same category. I think libertarian, constitutionalist, Tea Party.
Libertarian's a little more hippie-ish than what I am.
We're not hippie-ish. We just understand things a little different.
You're
Probably better.
Hot-spoken, free love. Nobody's going to tell me what to do, but at least you guys are better than the two parties.
No. We are
I'm
constitutionalists.
the stodgy old man that wants to hit you with a stick if you don't act right.
We're constitutionalists in the sense that we understand the Constitution. The Constitution never says anything about really dictating to the people. The drug war is wrong. It has caused more harm than good. There's no benefit in arresting people that are sick. If they're addicted to drugs, I mean, they've got this new drug out on the street called Crocodile, which is a form of
I was
heroin.
going to talk about that tonight. Have you even looked at this thing?
Oh, yeah.
It is an absolute nightmare.
Well, it came out years ago in Russia, and it's migrated over here. Now, the thing of it is that this shows how bad the war on drugs are, because this would not have hit the streets and become a problem if the heroin addicts weren't looking for something that was cheaper than heroin, because heroin's expensive on the streets. So they go and look for something like this, and they don't care because they're so addicted to this stuff, what it does to their body. Yeah.
Now, think about this. My daughter pointed this out the other day, and it was very frightening. If someone were to combine bath salt and crocodile, what would you have?
Asphalt and crocodile?
Bath salt.
Oh,
remember
bath
last
salts.
year this bath salt people was like going nuts eating people?
Well, see, that was the thing. That wasn't bath salts that guy was on. They said it was marijuana, but what it was a synthetic form of marijuana. It wasn't even close to being like the plant. He was on some synthetic
I know,
version.
it's a synthetic. They sell it at one of the sex shops up here near this military base I live by, and the military had to tell the soldiers, if we catch you buying it, you're kicked out.
Right, but bath salts and synthetic marijuana are two different things. They're two.
But that's what they referred to it as, is bath salt. Last year it was bath salt.
No, there's synthetic marijuana, and then there's bath salts.
I know they're different, but that's all what they was referring to it as. Every time they reported it, they was on bath salt. Remember?
Right. Well, see, when they first reported it, I'm like, well, when they first reported it, I'm thinking, so he went to Bed Bath & Beyond and started taking bath salts?
Yeah, that kind of had me confused at first. But the point is, if you mix that drug with crocodile, what would you literally have?
Now, you'd have a really messed up person.
You'd have a zombie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they're falling apart. I mean, their fingers
They're falling apart
off.
and wanting to eat human flesh.
It's just, these things come about because of the drug war. That's why you get all these weird forms of chemical experiments that people do in their basement. Meth is a good example of that. That was really the first one that came out that was, bathtub gin version of.
Hey, watch what you say. I'm a fan of Breaking Bad.
Okay, but it was
you're not going to badmouth meth.
Whatever. But it was a bathtub gin version of basically crack, and people became addicted to it. And if you look at what it does to people, I mean, they have like arrest
before
records.
And after photos.
Yeah,
over
crazy.
Like 1 to 3 years.
Oh yeah, and
the person looks entirely different.
And the main ingredient of that is Sudafed. And that's something readily available. People use all the time. But if you mix it with different chemicals, you can make meth. And so this became something people did to make extra money, and they're destroying people's lives. And the reason is the reason people start using this is because they can't afford crack. Or they can't afford cocaine. And really, crack was a form. They took cocaine, cut it with baking soda and some other stuff, and made a cheaper version, and people became...
I heard they actually used brick acid in that.
Do what?
I actually heard they used brick acid in that.
It's a possibility. I mean, they put all kinds of stuff in it. I mean, I don't... But the fact is that the drug war has caused a lot of this, and it hasn't solved anything. And it just shows the corruption. I mean, the government itself sells drugs.
The government is more responsible for bringing the drugs in than... why do you think that we're still in Afghanistan? They want the rich veins of, I believe it's lithium, and they want the opium.
Right. The opium trade there is huge. And they didn't stop it. I mean, you had all these soldiers over there, and we're so big on stopping drugs. You would think they would burn
Senior was one of the biggest drug lords ever.
Yeah, and you think they burn the
from what I understand, he was really heavy into the monarch sex slave trade.
Possibility, but
not a possibility. It is a probability.
Okay, sir. Well, the other thing is that you look at prescription drugs. Now, if you watch any of these commercials, now these are FDA approved, the list of side effects are worse than the cure that these things offer. And it's not really a cure, it's just basically treating the symptoms. There was one for the flu. And I mean, the list of side effects includes all kinds of stuff. I think one of them was death. So...
That is a common side effect in almost any of them. Look at these magazines. They'll have like a 2 or 3 page spread for a new drug. One page tells you a little bit about the drug, then the other 2, 3 pages is the side effects.
Yep.
One of the funniest things I've ever seen, and you may have seen it too, is when they come out with a drug for hair loss. Do you remember when they come out with, what was it, Propecia?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. You had all these men rushing out to get Propecia so they could grow hair and get a girlfriend, but one of the side effects to it was impotence. What good's it going to do you to have a girlfriend if you can't function with her?
They have a full head of hair, but
and women weren't supposed to touch the pill because a specific side effect that they wouldn't mention.
Well, there was another one. What is it? The testosterone supplement that they have that you like apply to your skin. And
your underarms, androgel or something.
Yeah, and you can't be around kids because it'll cause them to go through early puberty, and women can't be around you because it can cause them to
And it'll give you the man boobies.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, why are people using that? This sounds horrible. Use, natural, free testosterone supplements. I mean, don't...
Stay away from bisphenol A.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever looked into this? This is an insidious thing.
Well, it replicates estrogen.
What?
It replicates estrogen, right?
Yes, and most people don't realize that 40 to 60% of all credit card receipts and sales receipts that you get is just loaded with bisphenol A that you get significant amounts from just by touching your receipt.
Well,
and if you use hand sanitizer, for some reason it embeds it deeper into you. Just the amount that you can get from weekly handling a receipt is enough to cause young girls to go into their menstrual cycle earlier, makes young men effeminate. Now, years ago, the people would say, God made me this way if they were gay. But no, I don't believe it was God at all. I believe a lot of your homosexuals now, I used to say it was a choice. A lot of times I don't believe it is anymore because you have young men who are so full of bisphenol A, it's messing up their DNA. It's making them feminine. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
And they may not have a choice in the matter anymore. I think it is a direct assault to try to effeminate the men because you don't have the men who are warriors who will stand up and resist and fight back the same reason you have fluoride in the water to keep people zombied down. Mm-hmm. Look at all these illegal aliens that spill across the border. These Spanish guys, they're still fiery tempered and passionate and can get angry. But why is it American men can't anymore?
Well, I mean, we differ on our opinion about gays, but and homosexuals and the causes of that. Now, I do think that with BPA and certain things that do simulate estrogen, that can be affecting men.
Well, I'm not saying it's doing that to every single one, Nathan.
Right, but that there is something to that. But I think that there is something to other sciences come out about that. But we won't get into that because I don't want to get in this debate. But for me, I think that it's also in plastic bottles. You always want to make sure.
Food cans?
Yep, food cans and they found they were talking today that if you get canned food or anything, if they use municipal water, it has fluoride in it. And so even if you're filtering your water to take the fluoride out, if you eat the wrong thing, you're still getting fluoride. And people sit there and I told one of my neighbors about it. It's like, the Nazis used it to kind of sedate their population by putting in the water, and we're putting in the water. And he turned to me and just said, it's to help your teeth. I was like, the only way...
It is an industrial sludge.
Well, for me, I said, well, if you topically apply it and you leave it on your teeth for a certain amount of time and then spit it out, yes, it can have benefits to your teeth, but they haven't found any substantial statistics that show that having it in the water helps with preventing cavities. So it's a misconception, and it came out at around the same time that, I'm trying to think, asbestos did, and they've removed asbestos, but we still have it in the water. And a lot of countries are taking it out of their water because they don't find any significant results with it. I was raised on well water, and there was no fluoride added, and I had 2 cavities growing up. So, it's about teaching people how to take care of their teeth. For me, I use Thomas of Maine fluoride-free toothpaste now, and I won't touch anything else because it's got a dangerous amount of fluoride. If you take toothpaste and you swallow it, you have to call poison control. The only
Absolutely you do.
The only reason is because of fluoride. I mean, and it affects
more than a pea-sized amount.
Yep. It doesn't make any sense. And people don't.
We are being drugged on every single avenue.
Well, that you bring that up. Look at every single one of these mass shooters. They were on some kind of antidepressant. And the last 2, the woman that ran into, which, she was just executed, but the woman that ran into the barricade, she said that she was being watched by the White House. And you had the guy that went to the naval base. He thought that he was having low-frequency transmissions, being attacked that way. So
I'm sure he was. Those people are referred to as a targeted individual.
Right. So, this stuff is slowly coming to the forefront. It's slowly coming to the surface, and people still don't want to believe it. And most people don't even know about it because they watch the mainstream media, which is filtered by the corporate interests that run it. And there's 5 corporations that run all the news, all the entertainment that you watch on cable. All those thousands of channels are run by 5 corporations. Well,
a lot of these things that happen are the product of what they refer to as black sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're not talked about, they're kind of
well,
taboo.
Johnny, that if Fox News doesn't have it, or CNN, or MSNBC, it doesn't exist. It's a conspiracy.
I know that it does exist. I just know that the brain-dead zombies don't believe it exists.
Well, it's so funny because you say this stuff, and of course I understand that if you're not acclimated or you're not even close to being awake, that it just sounds out there. But the more you start to realize that what's going on, the rabbit hole goes a lot deeper, you begin to understand that, this stuff doesn't sound as far-fetched as you would think. People do.
And it goes to really, really ugly places. I mean, look right now, and I'm sure if you look it up right now, look at the DARPA robots.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked those up?
Are those the ones that look like horses or something?
Yes, and the Atlas. Look up Atlas robot right now.
Don't you remember when we were out there at that park near you, and we heard all those weird machine noises?
And there's only 2 things it could have been. It was either a test of a DARPA robot,
mm-hmm.
or it was an underground drilling.
Right, because you couldn't tell
underground.
Where this was coming from. And then when I saw that video of the
were
robot,
miles in the country.
Right, and it sounded like it was all around you. And when I saw that video of the DARPA robot, I told you, Johnny, I was like, doesn't that sound like what we heard? Because
it sounded a great deal like it.
Right.
But it sounded like heavy equipment working.
Yep.
But we drove up the roads, down the road, and we were like several miles off the road in the woods hearing this.
Mm-hmm. And that limestone cave that you showed me that was gated off, it had like a metal door in front of it. I mean,
big iron doors, yes.
Yeah.
And I've had several people tell me they would come through at midnight, and or late at night, and they would see lines of military vehicles driving into this cave.
Mm-hmm. But people don't want to believe this stuff, and they don't read anymore. They don't, look into stuff. It's whatever the news tells them, whatever that little box
tells them. And they don't write down notes either, so that somebody don't have to send them an electronic message, they could get wiped out if there was an EMP.
Oh, Jesus.
Whereas if they had had written it down with an ink pen, they'd still have their notes.
Oh, Lord. I'm not going to live that down, am I?
No, you're not. I want you to get rid of that darn nook or whatever it is. Keep it for recreation, but get you a supply of real books.
I use my Nook because it's convenient and, I mean, the battery lasts for it. It's convenient.
If the power grid goes down, guess what I've still got? I've got a library. You know what you got? Some cheap plastic paperweights.
I've got a library, but then I have the Nook.
A library?
A
Are you
library.
trying to sound more like you're more southern?
Yeah. But I have the Nook, and it's convenient, and the battery lasts for like, a year. Because it's the Nook Touch, the simplest one. Whatever.
You know how long a book lasts? Forever, unless it gets burned or wet.
No, if it's made out of tree paper, it doesn't. The acids.
It lasts a lot longer than your Nook.
Let me finish. The acids in it will actually eventually eat the paper. If it was made out of hemp paper, which hemp in this country,
but not in my lifetime,
which is the only country in the world that has hemp illegal, hemp actually lasts almost indefinitely. So, because there's no acids in it.
I'm not ready to go back to your hippie pot stuff again yet. We're still talking about books.
Hemp is not pot. It doesn't have any THC.
It's
it has
close enough. We're not. Quit pitching your drug stuff there.
No, but if you planted hemp near an open field of marijuana, it would reduce its potency.
I don't care.
Whatever.
I am trying to school you and give you some books that you probably want to add to your library, not your
library.
Library. Did you ever get that stash of PDFs that I tried to send you the other day?
Yes, your wife was able to send it to me because she's not, computer illiterate like you. She actually knows how to work it. I don't know what you were trying to send me. A broken link.
Well, I would like to try to send you, I'm not going to say it over the airwaves. But do you have a book called The Report from Iron Mountain?
No, I don't. Send me that.
No, I've only got one copy of it.
Well, see, if you had a PDF, you could just send it to me.
Yeah, well, I don't. But, they've come out trying to say this book is satirical now. But if you read it, there's no way in the world this was ever a satirical book. Behold a Pale Horse. You want to add that to your library.
Okay. And that's for our listeners as well, because we are on the radio.
Yes, there's this, The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Is that related to the Fed, or?
That is related to the Fed, yes.
Okay.
And everybody should read, or at least see the movie. If you can't read, see the movie, Atlas Shrugged.
Well, it's in 2 parts, so.
Well, it's in 3 parts. They ain't got the 3rd part out yet.
Oh, really?
The book is actually just one big book. It's almost as thick as the Bible.
Yeah.
But amazing parallels.
Didn't it take her like a decade
read
or 2?
1984, huh?
Didn't it take her like a decade or 2 to write it?
It took quite a while. But really, read The 5,000-Year Leap. I mean, there's some amazing books out there that you can educate yourself with.
But what's the fun in that? I mean, people don't want to do that anymore. I mean, they just want to sit there and text and, yeah. I think that we're losing.
Listen to books. Did you ever read 1984? I'm currently reading it. I'm reading it slow because I have a lot of time to read.
Yeah.
But 1984, people almost lost the ability to communicate with each other.
Well, see,
because of newspeak.
They're using
now,
it as
look
a
at us.
blueprint.
We don't even have a language anymore. People can't just sit down and talk. They've got to text. OMG, SMH. I had to look it up. What is SMH? You know what that is?
Smacking my head or something?
Shaking my head.
Oh, shaking.
How in the world would you ever know that? I mean, people are losing, they have no vocabulary anymore. You try to have a conversation with some kid or something today, and they almost need to use Google Translate to know what you're saying.
Well, it's like when you go and you look at comments for stuff, it's just, ugh. I mean, I admit I have some grammar issues because sometimes I just rush through it and I don't pay attention. But I mean, there's some people and they can't spell, they can't. It's really hard to tell what they're trying to say. I mean,
they can't convey an idea.
No.
And ask a kid, you ever read a poem? You ever read Annabelle Lee or any famous literature work? No, that's silly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody has any real culture anymore.
Well, it's like Idiocracy, and they sit
yes,
there.
It is.
It's so funny because it's you read books. You're gay. I mean, and that's what we're getting to. We've got people and they've got that mentality that reading is retarded. I mean, like, how does that make sense?
It doesn't. I mean, I come from like the deepest hollers in East Tennessee.
He does. Hillbilly relations. Go ahead.
Yes, the hillbilly where, people have big heads and bad teeth.
Deliverance.
But just because you come from some station in life don't mean you have to stay there. Educate yourself.
And I admire people that come from, like the ghetto or,
I did not come from the ghetto.
That's why I don't admire you. That come from,
I will stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
They come from impoverished conditions, and they make something of themselves. I mean, I've heard some, amazing tales, like this one girl that both of her parents were addicted to heroin, and she had to take care of her brothers and sisters because her parents were never mentally able to, and she would take care of them, teach herself, then she put herself through college. I mean, it was just amazing, the stuff that she did to make sure that she provided for her brothers and sisters and, bettered herself. And if she can do it, anybody can. And that just, people sit there and say, I don't have time and all that. And yes, I use that excuse. Many people use that excuse. It's just making the time to actually look at these things and look them up. Keeping up with current events is very important. I think that's a lot of the problems. People are more worried about celebrity news than they are about politics. I'm sorry, Miley Cyrus and whoever else do not affect my life. I do not give a crap what they do on stage. That's not going to affect me.
In fact, they do affect your life, actually, because many of these people are nothing but change agents for society to teach you how to think. Right, and whatever agenda.
Yeah, but the thing of it is that if we ignored that, it wouldn't affect anybody's life, and it really doesn't affect my life. Other than I see other people.
The fact is, they do affect our lives right now. You want gun control. What better way to get it than to have some of your favorite movie stars get up there and say that you're an evil person because you don't support gun control?
Well, that's true, but I'm talking about, the news is inundated about what Miley Cyrus did, and I use this example because I really barely pay attention to it other than if it's like blatantly everywhere. What she did at whatever award show she was on, and bumping and grinding and all that, that to me is irrelevant. It's not important. I don't know why people hold her in high regard. But yes, those people do have influence. No, a
petulant child. What do I care what she does?
But like Ben Affleck. Now that's one person that made me mad because he was on Bill Maher, which I don't like him either, but he was sitting there saying, the TSA touches your genitals or whatever. Who cares? Just get over it. And the funny thing is that he has a private jet. He doesn't have to go through TSA. He doesn't have to go through this. And here he is telling people that they should get over it. And that they shouldn't worry about it, that they should give up their, personal freedoms to make him feel safe. But he doesn't have to go through that. And that's what makes me mad. And people are like, oh, Ben Affleck, you're so right. No, he's not. He
He's
doesn't know
not
what
right,
it's
but
like.
the man is actually intelligent, though.
He may be intelligent, but he is, a puppet for the agenda, because he's saying, oh, well, you should, allow people to touch your junk.
No, you should not allow people to touch your junk.
I mean,
unless you're married, you should be the only one touching your junk. And maybe a doctor if you got something swollen up or something, but other than your wife or you, nobody should touch your junk unless it's a medical condition.
Well, the thing of it is that some of these TSA agents, the screening process sucks. I mean, there's some child molesters, there's pedophiles, there's all these different people. There's TSA agents have come up for all kinds of charges. One was recently, I think, taking pictures of people's skirts. I mean, you've got these...
Oh, my goodness. And not just that, but what about the backscatter X-ray machines that they use on people?
Oh, I know. So you either get irradiated or you have somebody
or
feel you up.
molested.
Yeah. All to make us feel safe, and TSA has not caught one terrorist,
No, in fact, more get through than they catch.
Mm-hmm. It's just, it boggles my mind.
And before we get too far off, we were talking about books earlier, and this is really near and dear to my heart, and Nathan probably knows it is. I don't believe that we can always depend on technology. Maybe we can, I don't know. But if the country keeps going the way it is, we're losing more and more expendable income all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who are not going to be able to always pay their electric bill, to have electricity. I think that this president's trying to bring us to a third world nation status where people are just dirt poor, living in shacks.
Oh, yeah, because
I really believe that. And, you learn how people 100 years ago lived.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to keep warm. Learn how to have light, how to make lamps. Get you some survival books and read them. If you had to go survive in the wild or build a cabin in the woods, or learn how to do it, how to set traps, how to run traps, how to skin an animal, how to tan a hide, how to get water, how to cook food on an open fire. Learn how to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they're hoping, is that people become so dependent that they won't. I mean, it's like the EBT card when that went down and people went crazy, and it was only for a few hours. I mean, that, like you said, it could have been a test to see how people react to it. But if they're down for a few days, I told, my wife, I was like, we need to stock up and be really stocked, because people are going to lose their mind if this EBT card goes down again, and they can't get their food that they've been entitled to.
The first thing you need to do, if something strange starts going on that you don't understand, fill up every water container you've got in your house. Fill your bathtubs up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not hard to pull the plug on a drain if you don't need it.
Yeah.
But if you need it,
go ahead.
Then, you've got it. Food and water will be critical things. If you're in the northeast or the upper north, figure out how to keep yourself warm.
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is like, January 1st, this is going to be a scary time, because January 1st, Obamacare goes into effect. And a lot of people are saying, and I'll say it, that your premiums are going to go up. Your deductibles are going to go up extremely high. My mom, who is a bus driver for the city, hers went from $35 for doctor visit to $300. And that's just, showing what's going to come about. Now, somebody said, oh, that's just, Obama supporter said that.
It's fear-monger.
Yeah, that's just, a correctional phase. It'll work itself out. No, a correctional phase is not, 3 times, or 10 times the amount, almost. It's a small marginal change, and that's not what we're seeing. And people are getting into these exchanges, if they can even get into it, And
only 51,000 as of last week has been able to sign up.
But of course the M are saying that, it's working out so great. CNN and MSNBC, they're pushing it and saying, it's doing real great, and everybody's getting signed up, and they're getting good rates, and I'm like, really? Their system's down. And you have, not only that, people are getting to it, and they're signing up, and the ones that do get in, they're like, I can't afford this. This is not what I thought it was going to be. I mean, people had this concept it was going to be free. And then you find out that the regulations are like 20 to 30,000 pages. Who's read all that? Nobody. And that's just the legislation and regulations around Obamacare. I mean, and it's not going to work. Those that sit there and have fooled themselves to think that Obamacare is going to work are, in for a rude awakening. And thank you for ruining our country. People that have voted Obama in for a second term, now, I don't think Mitt Romney would have been any better, because his policies and everything pretty much paralleled Obama. I mean, there's very marginal differences.
But it would have been impossible to be worse.
Yeah, but, I mean, seriously, right now, what we're at, I mean, even if it was a marginal little bit better, it's still really bad. And that's not something...
It is. When you have the President of the United States thinking he has the prerogative to kill American citizens.
Right. And has. A 16-year-old that was killed in, Pakistan? For being an Al-Qaeda member who was a U.S. citizen. I mean, he just is bonkers, but he's a puppet. There's other people in control. Nobody wants to believe that. Nobody wants to understand that. But, money talks, and these politicians get all their information, learn about the bill from these lobbyists. That's how they find out about the bill, is the lobbyists tell them what's in it. They don't read it. Most of them don't read any of it.
And I said, no, they don't. But speaking of Congress and the Senate, did you happen to catch the stenographers
Yes.
freak out the other night?
Yes, that was very bizarre. And she was talking about the Freemasons and you can't serve two masters.
Sons of the devil.
Yep. And they hauled her off quick. But when she went up to the mic, she asked if it was on. And then she started her rant. And then they quickly cut the mic off, but they cut it on, ambient mics, her rant.
She was dead on right about it, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, they said when they hauled her off, they hauled the only intelligent person in Congress off the floor.
It's something like that. And they're saying, we don't know if she's going to be charged yet or not.
For what? I mean,
I don't know. They probably got her in a hospital with electrodes on her head right now.
Well, they said they took her to a hospital for mental evaluation, which is,
Of course they did, because you can't have anybody speak the truth.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing, is that they're sitting there voting on something, and my thing is that, and I knew it wouldn't happen, I was hoping that the shutdown would continue past the debt ceiling, time to raise the debt ceiling, to show people that it wasn't necessary. There's
no way the Republicans were going to do that, because, it was already touted that Obama was going to go with the 14th Amendment.
Yep. He was going to take over.
So they couldn't let him take over the purse strings by executive order. So there was no question they had to blame.
But really, I would have liked to have seen that, to be honest with you, because I think that would have opened more people's eyes to the tyranny going on, to see that the president would override Congress and make them a token part of the government and become almost like a dictator, if not a dictator.
Well, you know that I'm ready for him to go over the cliff anytime.
Oh, it could happen.
Because I will thrive during the apocalypse.
I know you will, off your own hate and malcontent.
I will be the governor. Of course, you don't know what that is. You don't watch The Walking Dead.
I do. I caught a season and a half of it. I just don't have time to sit there and watch.
Nathan, there's no
sitcoms.
excuse for your shame.
Okay. I don't have time to sit there and watch that kind of stuff. So, you know.
Really, you don't? But you can sit and watch Pretty Little Liars with your wife.
I don't watch Pretty Little Liars.
Don't make it worse by lying.
I don't even know what that show's about. So
don't make it worse by lying. Your wife done said that you guys watch it together.
Well, she's lying because I never watched it.
So now you're going to call your wife a liar?
I will have her on one night to dispute your claim, sir, because that's not the truth.
No, I don't want you beating her to make her say something that's the truth.
I'm not going to beat her. She's pregnant. I wouldn't beat her anyway. But
no, she'd just black your eyes.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that, you know, right now we're at the cusp where I think a lot of people are waking up. I think, though, it's, I hate to say it, too late. You know, our government is so far gone. Our country is so far gone, and it scares me and it worries me for my children. You know. Well,
as much as I hate to admit it, you give me a tiny bit of hope because I didn't think you were ever going to wake up. You say you were awake, and maybe you were, but I don't think you were to the degree that you are now.
Well, like I said, and a lot of it had to do with what was going on in my personal life. I mean, I didn't want to, you know, invest time in something that I couldn't devote and do all the time. I mean, my daughter for the last 3 years has been in and out of the hospital. I've been dealing with that. And yeah, I was awake, but it was my level of involvement. And when you were doing the show before, and like I said, I wasn't comfortable with my knowledge. I wasn't comfortable enough, you know, 2 years ago to really come on the air and talk about this stuff because I didn't think I knew enough. Now I'm still learning, and I think we all are, but I'm more comfortable now with where I am with my knowledge than I was then. Again, you know, it had a lot to do with what was going on. I mean, I've almost lost my daughter 3 times, if not more, once in my arms. And, you know, to go through that was my devotion. That was my focus, was making sure she was healthy, make sure that, you know, she was better. And my daughter's beautiful. She's healthy. She's smart now. You know, she was smart before, but she's healthy now. And I think that's a lot of it has been. I didn't want to say it before. I mean, I don't like to talk about my personal life, but it has a lot to do with what was going on in my personal life, because that was my focus.
My only goal has always been to stand up for truth. And I would never do my children the dishonor of having a coward for a father. I may not be able to...
You calling me a coward? You calling me a coward?
No.
I'll drive 1,000 miles.
I'm just saying that I will do that. I'll call you a coward if it gets you down here. Coward. But, you know, you see things going wrong, you've got to stand up and say something.
Oh, and I did.
And I did. I stood up and I just shouted at the top of my lungs as long as I could. Nobody would listen. So I finally said, nobody wants to hear it. I will just take this time, you know, and build my own ark, have my evacuation route. You know, I will take care of my kids one way or another. If I can't do something to help benefit their country to get it back for them, then I'll teach them how to survive outside the system.
Well, like, I created the Ron Paul Facebook Army on Facebook. We used to go and go to the different news groups and blast their wall with all kinds of stuff about Ron Paul and show them how wrong they were. And I even orchestrated a demonstration here at one of the local parks. Now, the funny thing is they head of the park made a point to come over to us and say that we were not allowed to go up to anybody and solicit to them. You know, our statements, say anything to them unless they approached us.
So that's when you get you an Alex Jones megaphone and start Alex Jonesing them.
Well, we were sitting there yelling and, everything like that, but I looked in the rules of the park, and there is nothing about it. It's not there. And it seemed like because we were Ron Paul supporters that they had singled us out, because there was nothing in the rules about going up to people and giving them pamphlets or anything like that. And
people do that all the time, man. I had a cop sit here that I was just shooting the breeze with. Pretty cool guy, but he literally told me, if I see somebody doing something that I don't think's right, if I don't know if it's a law or something, I'll go up and make them stop and tell them that I'll make up a law and tell them they're in violation of that law and make up a code and say that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, really? I mean, come on, man. You can't do that.
But you see it all the time. I mean, you see it on there's YouTube videos of the police approaching people. I say have a camera on you, your cell phone, something on you, so that if you're approached for whatever reason by a police officer, you can record the event. And I say record it because that's protection for you. And they say
more and more cities and states are making it illegal to record the police.
I know, but that's your First Amendment right, and they're stepping on it.
Yes.
And if you have the ability through Ustream or something like that, have it broadcasted and stored in a separate place, so that if they do erase it off your phone, you have a backup. Because you should have the right, and you can argue that in court to record what they do. I mean, in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, they have a new law where they can just stop you and search you for no reason, just because they feel like it or they suspect you of, you look suspicious to them, basically. And
what state was it that said that they now have the right to search your cell phone at a traffic stop?
I don't know which one that is.
I was several months ago. I seen that one of the states had said that it was definitely legal for their cops to they stopped at a red light.
Mm-hmm.
They can go through your phone.
Wow. So much for the Constitution.
These are the kind of things that we're having to endure now.
Mm-hmm. And people don't know their rights, so it's so easy for the police to just, tote their authority. I mean, they're really shocked when somebody knows their rights and stands up to them. And they actually back down because they know they're wrong. Not all the time, but usually they'll back down, especially if you show, I know what I'm talking about, and you assert the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and throw it at them and say, this is the law. Any bylaws that you are sitting there enforcing have nothing to do with me, because that's unconstitutional, and you shouldn't be enforcing it because you took an oath to uphold the Constitution and you're not doing it. And
sheriffs don't have to just believe all the tripe that they're fed, because they are the highest officer in a town.
Mm-hmm. But you have so many that say, I'm just following orders. And that mindset...
Nobody gives you orders.
Well,
You're the sheriff.
That mindset is what, makes it so easy for them to overstep their bounds. And you have so many of them doing it nowadays. And people say, oh, well, cops do a lot of good. And I'm like, that's not the point. And
all cops aren't bad.
No, they're not. But the thing of it is...
The majority are really good guys.
But the thing of it is that they can be good guys if they enforce bad laws. It doesn't matter.
They're doing bad.
Right.
And why are they starting to look more like the Army all the time?
Oh, look at the one in Arizona. They have a Humvee that's decked out with 6-inch bulletproof glass, only one door to get into the thing in the back. It is fully armored for, explosions, all kinds of stuff. And they say it's for issuing warrants. Why do you need a vehicle of that extent to issue warrants? That doesn't make any sense. And the guy said it with a straight face. I was like, really?
Are you planning on issuing a warrant to a third world dictator?
Mm-hmm. that we're getting that point. I mean, our currency's about to tank. People don't realize it, if China...
Again, Case Manhattan, limited how much money you can take out.
Yep.
They're preparing for something.
Yep. And China has already said that they're thinking about finding another base currency to trade in besides the U.S. dollar. If they pull out, you're going to lose most of Asia, and Iran already trades in a different currency. That's why we're really going after them. We go after countries because they stop using the U.S. dollar as their trade currency. Iraq, when it started using the euro in 1999, 2000 time frame, that's when they decided they were going to attack Iraq. 9/11 happened, conveniently, and then all of a sudden we're going into Iraq like a year later because they have weapons of mass destruction that they never found. The real reason was they were reinstating...
they gave them to Syria. What's wrong with you?
Whatever. They were reinstating the U.S. dollars, the trade currency, and they did it right when they, created their government. They enacted the U.S. dollars, the trade currency again. The dollar went back up. The euro went down. Europe, started to go into turmoil because Iraq was holding them up. You had a lot of different things happening with different countries. Libya was another one. All of a sudden, Muammar Gaddafi, he was our pal. Overnight, he became our enemy. And he was creating a different trade currency, a gold-based trade currency, and was getting away from the U.S. dollar. When we found that out, all of a sudden he became our enemy, and we, supported the rebels that were in that country. And the same goes with Syria and Iran. They're going to a different currency. I think Iran already has. And so they're a threat. Anything that's a threat to our stability, our dollar stability, we go after. There's other factors there, but that's one of the major ones that nobody talks about, is that it's to uphold the dollar as the trade currency. That's really the only thing that keeps the dollar in any kind of relative value. There's no intrinsic value in the dollar. I mean, the dollar has no value at all, other than what we give it. We say it, oh, look, it has a dead president on it. It must be valuable. And the most ironic thing is
that... It is a promissory note. It's not backed by anything.
It's not a promissory note. It's
legal tender.
Promissory note was backed by silver and gold.
I understand, I misspoke. But legal tender is not backed by anything. Promissory note is gold or silver.
Right.
I've got one here. Let's see. I think I've actually got a gold or silver certificate dollar here. Let me look at this thing.
And that says a gold certificate. You can, well, you can't anymore, but you could trade it in for gold or silver, depending on what was backed at the time. That's still fiat in a way, because now you can't. It has no value whatsoever.
This one says $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand.
Yeah, but you can't do it anymore. So it's
no, not now.
So
but
it's really
is what money used to be.
Right, but that's fiat currency still, because if they pull away and say, well, we're not honoring those anymore, you have no value. If you have physical silver or gold coins, you have intrinsic value there. You have a viable source. They can't take it from you.
Well, they can't anything that is not pre-1933 or the C.
Yeah, because there was a guy that found some, and they said, he tried to trade it in at the...
Unless it has numismatic value, they can confiscate.
Right. Well, there was a guy, it was a couple of years ago, he tried to trade in these, I can't remember if they were silver or gold coins that he found. And they took them. They didn't give him anything for them. They said, well, it's before 1933, and you were supposed to turn these in, so you don't get anything. They're basically stolen because you didn't turn them in. And that's because FDR, basically, they were gold coins because FDR basically told people they had to turn in any gold bullion.
Under penalty of law.
Yep. Force of arrest. And that's...
Well, listen, it's getting pretty late. I hate to get off here, but my missus is ready to go to bed and running me out of the room that I'm in, or not really running me out, but I can tell that she wants to go to bed.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, April, for keeping them up. But, yeah, the story came out in EU Times. Look that up. I have it up on the Red Pill Nation site. I've also tried to contact Alex Jones's InfoWars to see if they would be interested in the story. But, yeah, look it up. It is interesting. Something did happen.
I think he's actually got that posted now, doesn't he?
I don't know. I've been trying to give it to him all day through different sources. So, we'll see. But, yeah. Thank you for listening.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Oh, well.
He surely was.
No, you. Anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate that for this special impromptu show. Our normal show will be on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So join us then. And this will also be up on YouTube and up on the libertythemovement.com website under Red Pill Nation. All right. Well,
Till next time, Nathan, happy Sabbath and I guess good night.
Well, happy Sabbath to you and good night.